The desert wind blew hard outside. Sharp dust hit the cloth walls of the tent. Inside, the air was heavy, silent, cold. A woman knelt on the ground, her hands tied behind her back. Her clothes were torn, her face had bruises, but her golden eyes still burned with strength. Beside her sat a small boy, her son, his arms wrapped tightly around her. He was thin, scared, but still breathing. Across from them stood Commander Raiden, a human officer, tall, strong, but his eyes showed confusion. Held a tablet in one hand. Caught stealing food from the supply train. Hiding near the outer dunes. Refused to run. Asked for her son to be spared. Raiden looked at the alien woman again. She didn't beg for mercy. She didn't cry. But when he stepped forward, her voice broke the silence. "Punish me, not my son," she said, her voice weak but firm. "Do what you want to me, but don't hurt him." The boy looked up at Raiden with big, glassy eyes. He didn't speak. Just held tighter to his mother's side. Raiden turned to the guards behind him. "She stole from us," one soldier said. "She's dangerous." "She could be a spy," said another. "Her kind served the enemy once." "They're all liars," growled a third. "She deserves the cage." But Raiden didn't speak. He stepped closer to the boy and knelt down. "What's your name, kid?" he asked. The boy didn't answer, but the woman spoke. "His name is Kalo," she said softly. "He hasn't eaten in 2 days." Raiden looked at Kalo's thin arms, his bony cheeks, his dry lips. "Why didn't you run?" Raiden asked the woman. "You had a chance." She looked him straight in the eyes. "Because running would mean leaving him behind." Silence filled the tent again. Raiden stood up. His face showed no emotion, but inside, something moved. A memory? A pain? He turned back to the guards. "Take them to the shelter," he ordered. The guards froze. "Sir? The shelter?" "But the orders." "You heard me," Raiden said sharply. "Food, water, medical care." The guards looked at each other in shock. "You're letting her go?" Raiden didn't answer. He just walked out of the tent. The wind hit his face, cold and wild. But it couldn't cool the heat rising inside him. Later that night, in the small shelter tent, the woman lay on the floor beside her son. Kalo slept peacefully for the first time in days. The woman didn't sleep. She stared at the fabric roof. Above her, her body ached. But she didn't care. She was thinking about the human, the commander. Why did he help them? Why didn't he punish her? She didn't trust humans. Not after what happened to her people. Not after the camps, the experiments, the betrayal. But this one was different. Outside, Raiden stood alone. Watching the stars, his mind was full. He had seen many prisoners, many criminals, many who lied, but the look in that woman's eyes wasn't fake. It was something else. Sacrifice. And the way she held that boy. Raiden took a deep breath. Maybe, just maybe, this war hadn't taken everything from them. Next morning, in the camp, the whispers had started. The commander saved an alien? He gave her food? Why? What's going on? Some soldiers were angry, some were confused, but no one dared speak in front of Raiden. He entered the control tent and pulled up files. He typed in the woman's face. No name. No ID. No records. Just one note. Escape from Sector 9. Experiment. Subject, Class Zeta. Raiden stared at the screen. Sector 9. It was shut down years ago. Too cruel, too dark. Even for war. He felt his chest tighten. She wasn't just a thief. She was a survivor. Back in the shelter, Kalo opened his eyes and saw his mother watching him. "Mama, are we safe now?" he asked. She smiled weakly. "For now, my little star." She kissed his forehead and whispered a silent thank you. Not to any god, but to the human who saw her pain and didn't turn away. She didn't know why he spared her, but deep down, she hoped. Maybe his heart wasn't like the others. Maybe there was still kindness left. Even in war, the camp was never truly silent. Even when the machines slept and the patrol lights blinked in lazy circles, whispers moved like shadows. Words passed from one mouth to another, soft as smoke, sharp as knives. Why is she still here? The commanders. Protecting her. What makes her and her brat so special? No one said it loudly, but everyone was thinking it. The alien woman and her son had become a mystery. And in a place like this, mysteries were dangerous. Inside the shelter tent, the woman, her name still unknown, sat quietly on the floor. Her arms were wrapped around Kalo, her son, who played with a broken spoon like it was a toy. She hadn't spoken to anyone since the judgment. She only spoke to her son, and sometimes. In her sleep, she cried out. Words in her language, names, screams, nightmares. Haunted her, but she always woke up before they could take her peace. Outside the tent, 2 soldiers stood guard, but not for protection. They were watching, waiting. Some of them wanted a reason to call her a threat. Commander Reagan sat alone in his quarters. A hot cup of black brew sat, untouched on the table. He was watching a replay on his screen, the woman's arrest. The way she clutched her child. The way she didn't beg for herself. Something about her felt familiar. And it was starting to bother him. He opened restricted files again. Experiment Zeta-3. Marked for weapon testing. Declared lost after escape from containment facility. Presumed dead. But she wasn't dead. She was breathing. Starving. But alive. Raiden leaned back in his chair and sighed. What did they do to you, meanwhile? In the cafeteria. A group of soldiers talked in low tones. Private Heller slammed his tray down. We fight, we bleed. And she steals from us, and the commander gives her food? Sergeant Voss narrowed his eyes. She had a kid with her. Maybe you'd do the same if it was your child. She's not even one of us, Heller spat. She's one of them. She probably poisoned our supplies already. Another soldier leaned in. What if she's a leftover weapon? An old lab project? What if she snaps? Eyes turned toward the shelter tent from across the yard. That evening, Kalo wandered just outside the tent with a small ball made from cloth. He laughed softly, kicking it around. It was the first time he'd smiled in days. Some soldiers stopped to watch. A few smiled. But Heller? He saw the boy and growled. That thing shouldn't be here. Raiden stepped out of his office and noticed the tension. He walked calmly to Kalo and knelt. How's the leg, little one? He asked. Kalo looked up and nodded. Better, thank you, sir. The boy gave a shy smile and returned to playing. Raiden stood and faced the watching soldiers. He's a child, not an enemy. But no one said a word. They didn't have to, that night. The woman stirred again in her sleep. Her hand clenched. The edge of the blanket. This time, Raiden entered the tent. He stood in silence and watched her face twist in fear. She whispered, Don't take him. Please, I'll do anything. Just don't take my son. Raiden didn't wake her. He simply left a food ration beside her and walked out. Heart heavy, but trouble was coming. Outside the camp walls, a drone hovered, unseen. Unregistered. Watching. Recording. Transmitting. Far away, someone received the footage and smiled. So Zeta-3 is alive, the voice said, and in human hands. He pressed a button and sent the order. Back at the camp, the whispers were turning into fire. She's dangerous. The commander is protecting her for no reason. He's hiding something. Some believed she was a spy. Others believed Raiden was falling under her alien tricks. But Raiden wasn't the only one watching her now. Someone else was coming. Someone who didn't believe in mercy. And, in the middle of it all, a boy just wanted his mother to be safe. Night covered the camp like a blanket of ash, but not everyone slept. Inside the small tent, the alien woman sat awake. Her son Kalo slept beside her, curled up like a kitten. His breathing was soft, peaceful. For the first time, he had a full stomach. For the first time, he wasn't cold. But his mother's eyes were wide open. She was remembering the place where lights never turned off. Where metal hands held her down, where screens bounced off the walls and no one cared. She gently pulled her shirt down from her shoulder. There it was. The wound. It wasn't a scar from a fight. It wasn't natural. It glowed dim and blue, shaped like a symbol. It pulsed with a slow beat, like it still had life inside. She touched it and winced. It burned. But from memory. Outside the tent, Commander Raiden couldn't sleep either. He walked the camp alone, hands behind his back, boots crunching the sand. The wind was quiet tonight, but his mind wasn't. Something about her kept pulling at him. She wasn't like the others he'd arrested. She never begged, never lied, never even asked for release. Only one thing mattered to her: the boy. Raiden stopped outside her tent. He heard something, a whisper, a cry. He stepped closer and then, "Please, not again." Her voice. Soft, afraid. Raiden's hand moved to the tent flap. He paused. Was this right? He knocked gently instead. The woman gasped. "Who is it?" she asked, quickly covering her shoulder. "It's me," Raiden said. "Are you all right?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Come in." Raiden entered. The air inside was warm. Her son was still asleep, a blanket tucked under his chin. But her face, her eyes were tight with fear. Raiden sat near the entrance. "You were dreaming," he said. She nodded. "Not a dream. A memory from the lab?" She froze. "But then?" she asked softly. "You saw the mark, didn't you?" Raiden didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. "Yes." She turned her head away, ashamed. "It's not something I chose," she whispered. "They called it the seed mark, said it made me special. Said I could carry things no other test subject survived." Raiden's jaw tightened. He had read those reports long ago. About women used to carry artificial embryos, genetically altered DNA, soldiers born in darkness, weapons from birth. Some test subjects died. Some were discarded. Only a few survived. She was one of them. "And Kalo?" Raiden asked gently. She smiled a sad, painful smile. "He's mine, my real child. Not theirs. I ran before they could take him. I thought we were safe. But out there is no safety for people like us." The next morning, Raiden stood before the command center screen. He played a file, her record, but now he added his own report. Subject Zeta-3 located. Escaped experiment. Shows no signs of aggression. Protective of child. Mentally stable. Number. Threat detected. He hit save. Then he locked the file with his own code. If command found out, they'd want her returned. And he wasn't going to let that happen. Elsewhere in the camp, rumors kept growing. Someone had taken a photo of the glowing mark on her back, threw a tear in the tent. They passed it around. "She's marked. She's not just an alien, she's one of the lab freaks. What if she explodes? What if she's a ticking weapon?" Fear spread like a fire in dry grass. And one man, Private Heller, watched with hate in his eyes. Didn't want her gone. He wanted her destroyed. That night, while the camp slept, a small robot bug crawled under the tent flap. It scanned her body. It read her pulse. It recorded her voice as she whispered to her sleeping child. "If anything happens to me, Kylo, run to the man with the kind eyes." The robot blinked twice, then disappeared into the darkness. Far away, a message arrived. At a secret facility, the man who received it leaned back in his chair. "Zeta-3 is alive, the child too," he smiled. "Prepare the extraction squad. We're bringing our property home." Back at the camp, Raiden sat on his bunk, thinking of the woman's words. "You saw the mark, didn't you?" He did, but he saw more than that. He saw a mother, A fighter, a survivor. And somehow, she was making him believe again that not everything lost in war stays lost forever. Morning in the desert camp came quietly, but not peacefully. There was a strange feeling in the air, like something was about to go wrong. Commander Raiden felt it the moment he stepped out of his quarters. Soldiers looked away as he passed. Conversations stopped. Faces turned cold. Something had changed overnight. Inside the cafeteria, a crowd gathered around a screen. Someone had leaked something. A photo. It showed the alien woman's glowing back. The strange mark. The symbol of the experiments. One word sat on the screen, written in red: lab property. Private Heller stood in the crowd, arms crossed, smiling. "She's not a refugee," he growled. "She's not even a person. She's a weapon that ran away from her cage. And now she's hiding behind our commander." Makes you wonder if he's thinking with his head, or something else. There were no laughs. Just silence. Because deep down, even those who had pitied her were starting to wonder, what if she's dangerous? At the same time, the woman sat in the quiet corner of the medical tent. Kayla was playing with a piece of wire, bending it into animal shapes. A nurse checked her pulse, pretending to be calm, but her hands trembled. The woman noticed. "You're afraid of me now," she said quietly. The nurse said nothing, but her eyes said everything. The woman turned her face away. Raiden entered the command hall. But before he could speak, Colonel Graff's face appeared on the main screen. "Commander Raiden," the voice was sharp, cold, "we've received a high alert signal. A lab drone confirmed Subject Zeta-3 is alive." Raiden stayed calm. "She's not a threat. She escaped years ago. She's living peacefully with her child." "She belongs to the Defense Genetics Program," Graff snapped. "She's not a refugee. She's government property. Prepare her for transport." Raiden's jaw tightened. "She has a child. The child can be studied too." Raiden clenched his fist. "You're not taking them." Graff smiled thinly. "You have 24 hours, Commander. Follow orders or be replaced." The screen went dark. Later that day, Raiden gathered the leadership team, but even his own officers looked uneasy. "Sir, maybe she should go," one said. "We can't fight the labs," said another. "She's not worth the trouble." Raiden slammed his hand on the table. "She is a mother. She is not a threat. And she is not going anywhere." They fell silent, but the doubt didn't leave their eyes. Outside, in the dusty courtyard, Heller approached the shelter tent. He stood just outside the flap, smiling. "You've got 1 day left," he whispered through the fabric. "You'll be back in a cage by sunrise. Maybe your brat too." Inside, the woman held Kalo tighter. She said nothing, but her eyes burned. That night, she made a choice. She packed a small bag, food, water, a sharp metal piece she hid in her sleeve. She woke Kalo gently. "We're leaving," she whispered. "We can't stay. It's not safe." Kalo looked confused. "But what about the nice man? He can't protect us from all of them." But she wasn't the only one planning something. In the dark, a team of silent soldiers arrived outside the camp gates. No flags, no insignias, just black uniforms and silent drones. The extraction squad had arrived. Meanwhile, Raiden couldn't sleep. Again, he paced, checked reports, reread her file again and again. But one line haunted him. Subject shows advanced maternal bonding. Will sacrifice self for offspring. That was never meant to be praised. It was meant to be a warning. Raiden finally stood. He grabbed his sidearm. "If they come, I won't let them take her." As the woman crept through the shadows, holding Kalo's hand tightly, alarms suddenly blared. Lights flashed. Shouts rang out across the camp. "Intruder alert! Unmarked transport sighted! Secure the base!" She froze. Too late, they were already here. From the sky, a black pod landed, silent, fast, deadly. Out stepped 3 figures, not soldiers, collectors, no voices. Just scanners and tranquilizers. They were not here to talk. They were here to take back property. Suddenly, a flash of light, gunfire, and a voice. Stop right there. Commander Raiden stood between the woman and the collectors. He raised his weapon. She's under my protection. You take 1 step forward, and I shoot. The collectors paused, then raised their arms. Raiden's finger. TENSED. The woman's eyes widened. Kayla whispered, "He came for us." And that moment, everything changed. The night sky burned with red lights. Sirens echoed across the desert. Gunfire had stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. Commander Raiden stood in front of the alien woman and her son, his weapon raised, heart pounding. The unmarked collectors faced him, still and wordless. Their helmets reflected the camp lights, hiding any sign of emotion. They were not here to argue. They were not soldiers. They were hunters. And their target was her. The woman stepped forward. "Don't fight for me," she whispered. "They'll mark you a traitor. They'll take your rank, everything." But Raiden didn't lower his gun. "They already have," he said. Kalo gripped his mother's hand tightly. The boy was shaking. Suddenly, one collector raised a device and spoke for the first time. "Subject Zeta-3, you are to be returned to Genetic Control Facility under Directive 7. You will surrender now or face lethal retrieval." Raiden's voice was low, dangerous. "You'll have to go through me." The collector paused. Then he aimed. A shot fired, but not at Rayden. It hit on the wall, one of Raiden's men, standing still. He fell instantly, paralyzed. A warning, this was war now. Raiden turned fast. "Get to the eastern gate," he told the woman. "Follow the old water pipes. There's a broken fence line. Go, now." She didn't argue again. She grabbed Kalo and ran into the shadows, heart pounding like thunder. In her chest, Raiden opened fire, distracting the collectors. Lights blinked. Alarms screamed. But the woman kept running. Behind the supply depot, they reached the rusted water pipe. Kalo was out of breath. His legs were weak, but he kept going. "Mama," he said, "will they take you away?" She stopped, bent down, touched his cheek. "If they do," she whispered, "you keep running. Don't look back." "But I don't want to leave you." She pulled a small chip from her sleeve. "This has your name. Your blood ID. Give it to any human who's kind." Tears rolled down her face. "Tell them your mother loved you more than her life." Back at the camp, Raiden was pinned down. One drone hit his shoulder. He rolled behind cover, breathing hard. His cum buzzed. "Commander, they're getting away," one soldier shouted. "Let them," Raiden said. "But sir, the council. I don't care about the council." He took another shot. One drone sparked and exploded. Raiden gritted his teeth. He had chosen his side. Far outside the camp walls, the woman and her son reached the broken fence. Freedom was close, but just then, a shadow dropped in front of them. Of the collectors. Silent, fast. It raised a tranquilizer gun. She pushed Kalo behind her. "Run! No! Run!" The collector fired. She turned her body. The dart hit her in the side. She fell. Kalo screamed. The collector stepped forward. Kalo jumped onto the machine's leg, hitting it with his fists, but it was no use. The collector grabbed the boy by the collar. And then a gunshot echoed across the dunes. The collector's head snapped back. It fell. Dead. Behind it stood Raiden, bleeding, limping, but alive. His gun still smoking. "You don't touch him," he said. Kalo ran to him, crying. Raiden knelt down, holding the boy close. "Where's your mother?" Kalo pointed. She was lying in the sand, eyes half open, barely breathing. Raiden rushed to her side. "Stay with me," he said. "He's safe," she whispered. "That's all that matters. You're not dying here. Not tonight." He lifted her in his arms. At sunrise, the camp was silent. The collectors were gone. Orders had come in, but Raiden didn't care. He stood in the medical tent, watching over the woman and her son. Her wound was healing. Slowly, Kalo sat beside her. Bed, drawing on a tablet Raiden gave him. Raiden looked at them both and knew what he had to do. He walked to the command terminal, opened a secure channel. Typed slowly. Subject Zeta-3. Status missing. Presumed dead. Then he deleted all her files. Forever. She was free now. But freedom came with a price. Raiden had crossed a line, and the world beyond the camp would not forget. But he didn't care, because now he believed in something again. Not war. Not duty, but hope. Asterisk. The camp had changed. It was no longer just a military base. Now it felt like a battlefield of whispers. Some whispered about the commander, who disobeyed orders. Some whispered about the alien woman, who should have been returned to the labs. But no one whispered about the truth, because no one knew it yet. Large transport ship landed, covering the base in shadow. From it came a small group of high-ranking officers, government lawyers, and one cold-faced man in black. Director Malvik, head of the genetics division. He didn't greet anyone. He walked straight to the central building and spoke 2 words: bring them. The courtroom was just a repurposed command hall. Metal chairs, a dull light, cameras in every corner. Commander Raiden stood before them, unshaken. The alien woman sat to his right, her arms cuffed, but her eyes sharp as ever. Kalo was not there. Raiden had hidden him far away. Safe. Because today would not be safe. Colonel Graf began. Commander Raiden, you knowingly disobeyed a direct order. You concealed classified property. You assisted a dangerous lab subject in escaping collection. What do you say for yourself? Raiden looked him in the eye. She's not property, she's a person. Mother, and she's not dangerous. You are. Gasps filled the room. Then came Director Malvik. His voice was flat, cold. The subject, Zeta-3, was created under military authorization. Her body enhanced, her DNA altered. She is a tool of war, not a citizen, not a mother. Raiden's voice rose. And who gave you the right to play God? To brand children in the womb with tracking codes? To rip women from their homes and call it science? Silence. Malvik smiled slightly. It was legal. Then Raiden did something no one expected. He inserted a small chip into the court display. System. And the screen lit up. Videos, photos, documents, test, subjects screaming behind glass, children, born and separated, mothers marked with glowing symbols, even footage of the woman strapped to a table begging, "Don't take my child." The room went silent. Even the soldiers who hated her couldn't speak. Even Colonel Graf looked down. Malvik stood slowly. This was classified. How did you? I was there, Raiden said. 10 years ago. I delivered food to that lab as a junior officer. I saw the cages. I saw the lies. I kept quiet then. I won't now. Then the woman stood, still, cuffed, still weak, but her voice was clear. I am not a threat. I am not a machine. I'm a mother. I bled. I broke. I begged. But I never gave up, not on my son, not on myself, and not on the belief that someone out there still had a heart. Tears glistened in a few soldiers' eyes. Raiden watched her with pride. Then came a voice from the back of the room. Let her speak free. Everyone turned. It was Sergeant Vos, one of the oldest in the camp. A man who had once doubted her. She saved no lives, but she didn't take any either. She's not our enemy. And slowly, others stood. One by one. Soldiers. Engineers. Even a medic. Until half the room stood silently in her defense. Graf was furious. You're destroying years of protocol. Malvik's face turned white. This will ruin the project, Raiden replied calmly. Good. The judges whispered, debated, argued. Then finally, the verdict. Subject Zeta-3 is no longer government property. She is to be released under protected status. Her child is granted full citizenship. Commander Raiden will be suspended until further review. Raiden nodded. He'd do it all again. Outside the courtroom, the woman looked at him. You gave up everything. No, he said. I finally did something right. Kalo ran toward them from behind a truck. Mama! She caught him in her arms, spinning him once. She looked at Raiden. What now? Now, he said, you live. The sun rose over the desert, soft and golden. But this morning, it felt different. Not like the angry sun that had burned her skin when she was hunted. Not like the cold sun that rose the day she was judged. This morning, it was warm, like a promise. The alien woman stood at the edge of the camp, watching the wind move the sand like waves. Her arms were no longer tied, her shoulders no longer hunched. She was free. Beside her, Kalo ran barefoot, chasing his shadow. He laughed a sound so full of life, it made passing soldiers stop and smile. Once, he was a child of fear. Now, he was just a boy. Inside the commander's office, Raiden packed his things. He was no longer commander. No badge, no orders to give. They called it suspension. He called it peace. As he placed the last item in his bag. The door opened. It was her. The woman, who was once called Zeta-3. But today, she had something else. A paper. They gave me a new file, she said. A new number. A new tag. Raiden didn't respond. She placed the file on his desk. I don't want it. He raised his eyes. What do you want then? She smiled. A real, soft, human smile. A name. Later that day, a small gathering formed in the courtyard. A few soldiers, some officers, and one special guest, the civilian registration officer holding a datapad. State your full name, he said. The woman stepped forward. She looked down at Kalo, then at Raiden, who stood beside her in silence. Then she raised her chin. My name is Oren. The officer typed it in. And the child? His name is Kalo Oren. You're requesting to register him under your name? Yes, and I want something else too. The officer looked up. Go on. Oren looked at Raiden. I want him to be listed as our protector. There were murmurs, but the officer nodded, approved. As the sun began to set, Raiden walked with them to the gates of the camp. Oren had made her decision. She didn't want to stay. The world was wide, and she wanted her son to grow beyond fences and guards. Where will you go? Raiden asked. Someplace green, she said. Someplace with rain. He nodded. Then, Kalo ran back to him and placed something in Raiden's hand. It was a drawing. Stick figure of Raiden, Oren, and Kalo. Holding hands, Raiden smiled. I'll keep it safe. Kalo hugged him hard. I love you, he whispered. Raiden's heart shook. I love you too, kid. Before they left, Oren turned back one last time. They gave me a new name, but the one that matters most, I got from you. Raiden tilted his head. What name? She touched her heart. Mother. Then she took her son's hand, and together, they walked away into the desert light, not as fugitives, not as weapons, but as family.